The harder you try to win, the more you guarantee you'll lose. And the people who figure this out aren't lazy. They're the highest performers on the planet. There's a reason the most decorated athletes in history talk about being in the zone, like it's something that happened to them, not something they forced. There's a reason the best creative work you've ever done probably came out of nowhere when you stopped caring so much. Today, we're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how you can make it happen on purpose. This is the detachment productivity mindset, and by the end of this video, you'll have a completely different relationship with how you work. Picture a professional golfer standing over a 3-foot putt. It's the final hole. The tournament is on the line. Every muscle in their body knows how to make this shot. They've made it 10,000 times in practice. But something is different now. The outcome matters, and that's exactly what ruins it. This is called paralysis by analysis in sports psychology, but it goes deeper than that. When the brain fixates on a result, on winning, on not losing, on what happens after the action, it actually interferes with the neural pathways that execute the skill. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that worries and plans, starts overriding the motor cortex, the part that actually knows what to do. You felt this. You've had a conversation where you were so focused on making a good impression that you couldn't think of anything interesting to say. You've had a presentation where you knew the material cold, but the fear of being judged made you blank out. The trap is this: we think that caring more about the outcome makes us perform better. We think pressure sharpens us, and sometimes it does, but only up to a point. Past that point, the very act of wanting the result too badly becomes the thing that prevents you from getting it. Ancient Vedic philosophy identified this problem thousands of years before neuroscience had the tools to explain it. The Bhagavad Gita, one of the oldest psychological texts ever written, describes it plainly. Your right is to the action alone, never to the fruits of that action. Don't let the results be your motive, but don't let that become an excuse for inaction either. That's not a religious instruction. That's a performance protocol, and it maps almost perfectly onto what modern researchers call process orientation. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying peak human performance. He interviewed surgeons, chess grandmasters, rock climbers, composers, and factory workers who described moments where time disappeared, effort became effortless, and their output was better than anything they could consciously engineer. He called it flow, and here's the thing almost nobody talks about. You cannot enter flow by trying to enter flow. The moment you start thinking, I want to get into flow right now, you've already exited the conditions that create it. Flow requires that your attention be fully absorbed in the process of what you're doing, not the meaning of it, not the reward at the end, not how you'll feel when it's done. This is the detachment productivity mindset in action. Not detachment from the work. You're deeply engaged. Detachment from what the work means for you. Detachment from the scoreboard. Researchers at the University of Chicago found that athletes who were coached with process-focused language, focus on your form, your breath, your foot strike, outperformed athletes coached with outcome-focused language. Win this race, beat your time. Even when the outcome-focused athletes were more naturally talented. The mechanism is straightforward. When you're process-focused, your brain allocates all available resources to executing the task. When you're outcome-focused, your brain splits its resources between execution and evaluation, constantly running a background calculation of, is this going well? Am I winning? What happens if I fail? That split costs you every time. The Vedic framework describes this as acting from a place of inner stillness, not stillness as in doing nothing, stillness as in a complete absence of internal noise about what the action means for your ego, your reputation, your future. The action becomes clean, and clean action is almost always better action. Here's something that will feel wrong at first. The people who achieve the most are not the ones who care the most about achieving. They're the ones who care the most about doing the thing well right now in this moment. There's a famous story about a Japanese swordsmith who was asked why his blades were considered the finest in the world. He said it wasn't because he was trying to make the finest blade. It was because every single motion, every strike of the hammer, every fold of the steel received his complete attention. He wasn't making a sword, he was doing this strike, then this one, then this one. That's not a metaphor, that's a description of how excellence actually works. Psychologist Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset touches this same territory. People who define success as learning and improving, process orientation, consistently outperform people who define success as winning and being better than others, outcome orientation. And they also experience dramatically less anxiety, less burnout, and more sustained motivation over time. The Vedic teaching takes this further. It says that attachment to results is actually the primary source of human suffering. Not because results don't matter, they do, but because when your sense of self is tied to outcomes you can't fully control, you are permanently at the mercy of circumstances. You become anxious before the result and either inflated or crushed after it. Neither state is useful. Detachment doesn't mean you don't want good outcomes, it means you don't need them to feel okay. And paradoxically, that psychological safety is what allows you to take the risks, make the bold moves, and sustain the effort that actually produces good outcomes. This is the detachment productivity mindset reduced to its core. Do the work fully, want the result lightly, and let the result be whatever it is. Every time someone hears detach from outcomes, they think it means stop trying, stop caring, go sit on a mountain and let life happen to you. That's not what this is, and getting this wrong will cost you. The Bhagavad Gita is explicit about this. It calls the highest form of action nishkama karma, action without selfish desire, but action performed with full intensity, full skill, full commitment. The warrior in the story is told to fight with everything he has. He's not told to be indifferent. He's told to be indifferent to the scoreboard while being completely committed to the battle. Think about what that looks like in practice. A surgeon who is detached from outcomes isn't a surgeon who doesn't care if the patient lives. They're a surgeon who has done everything possible to care for that patient and who can then separate their sense of self from a result that is, in the end, not entirely in their hands. That detachment doesn't make them worse at their job, it makes them better because they're not operating with fear as their primary fuel. Fear based motivation works. Short term, it gets you out of bed, it gets the project done, it gets you through the crisis. But it has a ceiling, and that ceiling is lower than most people realize. The research on intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, work by Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, shows that people driven by internal standards consistently outperform people driven by external rewards or fear of punishment, especially on complex, creative, or long horizon tasks. The detachment productivity mindset is not about lowering your standards. It's about changing the source of your drive. From fear of the result to love of the process. From I need this to go well to I'm going to do this as well as I possibly can. That shift doesn't make you passive, it makes you unstoppable because you're no longer dependent on external conditions to justify your effort. You bring the same quality of attention to the Tuesday morning task as you do to the high stakes presentation. And over time, that consistency compounds into something that outcome chasers can never build. Understanding this concept is one thing, rewiring your default operating mode is another. Here are three specific practices that create the detachment productivity mindset as a lived experience, not just an idea. First, the pre work reset. Before any significant task, take 60 seconds to ask yourself one question. What would it look like to do this as well as I possibly can, regardless of what happens after? You're not lowering the stakes, you're relocating where the stakes live, from the outcome to the execution. This single question interrupts the anxiety loop before it starts. Second, process journaling. At the end of each day, instead of reviewing what you accomplished, the outcomes, review how you worked. Were you present? Did you give full attention to what was in front of you? Did you make decisions from clarity or from fear? This trains your brain to measure success by something you actually control, which builds a completely different relationship with your own performance. Third, the already done reframe. This one comes directly from the Vedic framework. Before you begin something important, spend 30 seconds mentally releasing the outcome. Not hoping it goes well, actually releasing your grip on it. Imagine the work is already complete. The result is already whatever it's going to be, and your only job now is to execute with full attention. This sounds abstract, but it produces a measurable drop in performance anxiety. You've already let go of what you can't control, so you're free to focus entirely on what you can. None of these practices require you to believe anything spiritual. They are cognitive tools. They work because they redirect your attention from the uncontrollable to the controllable, from the future to the present, from the evaluation to the execution. The detachment productivity mindset isn't a philosophy you adopt. It's a skill you build one task at a time until it becomes the default way you show up to your work and your life. If something in this video shifted something for you, even slightly, that's worth paying attention to. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because we go deeper into this every week. And if you have questions about anything we covered today, how to apply the process reset, how to handle situations where the stakes feel too high to let go, anything, drop them in the comments. I read every single one and I reply. Finally, there's a free daily mind reset kit linked in the description. It's a practical companion to everything we talk about on this channel, frameworks, daily prompts, and tools you can actually use. Go grab it, it's free, and I'll see you in the next one.